This is Conversations with My Terminally Ill Wife, a series where my wife and I chronicle her experience with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. No topic is off limits as we discuss traditional and non-conventional treatments, mindset and mentality, faith and family, and all the things that have helped us through this journey. Podcast number 1. I'm Brian.
I'm Narda.
And we're going to do a bunch of these. But I think first off, we're married, if people don't know this. We've been married for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're South African. I'm Canadian. We live in Canada. Why don't you talk about what you've been dealing with for the last 10 years or so? Just a brief thing. We'll go more into that in some other episodes.
Okay. I was diagnosed when I was 30 with breast cancer, stage 2. And I found the lump in my armpit on my 30th birthday. So I went to the doctor. I did an ultrasound, a mammogram, and then they diagnosed me with the breast cancer.
I'm just going to interrupt you now a little bit. Sorry. We're going to go more into this, more in depth than that, and maybe in a later episode. I want to chat about some other things first on this one for a bit of background. So you got diagnosed your 30th birthday. You turned 40 this year. Then in 2017, it came back as metastatic breast cancer, which we'll go more into and what that entails in a later thing as well. But talk to me about your upbringing and your life as a little girl in South Africa and what that was like, and talk to me about, just give us a little bit of context to your parents and your family life there.
I was exactly the same age actually when I got married as my parents. So they got married at age 22. They had me at age 26. And my mom was a nurse and she worked really hard. She ran an old age home. She was the head of the old age home. My dad was...
And you guys lived on the property of the old age home as well? Or
Yes,
you backed onto the property of it?
Yeah, we actually had a door connecting us to the old age home. And I, as a little girl, went to see all the old people and they will give me candies. They loved me. I was this beautiful little girl that cheered them up. And
it's a funny story because my granny, my mom's mom, that lived with us in Canada from Scotland, you never met. She actually died when I was in South Africa with you in 2004 when I moved over there with you. But she volunteered for years, I don't know, 10 years or more at an old age home where I grew up. And I used to go with her in the summer times once a week. She'd actually be there more than that sometimes. She'd be there 3 times a week. She used to do the exercise classes in the chairs. And then she did another tea time thing with them. And then I used to help get them. And it was very fun.
Yes. So I don't know if that is why I get along with older people, maybe. But I hang out with old people when I was a little girl. We would have teas and fundraisers and just functions and things to keep them busy. And I remember my mom's office so clearly. And I would just hang out there sometimes and just make my way through the old age home. And I remember I still have a photo of me and a lady that turned 100.
Nice.
So I grew up on the grounds there. And then my dad actually built a house, a giant house. And he did it by himself. What did your
dad do then? What was your dad's profession?
My dad was a professor at the Free State University.
So let's jump a little bit back to where this was in South Africa and the time in South Africa. This was during apartheid. Apartheid hadn't ended yet. Apartheid was ended in 1994, so this is 81.
Yeah.
Or you were born in 81, but then as you were a little girl. And where were you in South Africa, and what was that like?
So I was born in Bloemfontein in the Free State of South Africa. And I did not really grow up with racism. It was more my grandma, the older people that were more racist. Not on purpose, but that's how they were raised.
But what was it like there living there? Was it, footage we have of you was some VHS stuff, but looks like it was a lot of fun. Like your cousins were all close. Your family all lived kind of close to Bloemfontein, and your mom was one of 4 sisters.
Yes, she was one of 4 sisters, and they were all close. And we hung out as cousins a lot of times. Mm-hmm. We together every Christmas and birthdays. And my mom's second oldest sister, they lived on a farm, and I have the most amazing memories from there. My mom and dad would take me and leave me there for a week. And then my aunt will drive me back home, or they will come and get me again. But I spent lots of time with them. And my cousin is the same age as me. His name is Jan. So it's spelled like Jan, but it's Jan. And we would...
You have a lot of funny names.
Yes. We would shoot doves, and we would cook it on a spit and would eat the dove. My aunt made the most amazing experiences for us. She would pack a picnic, and then we would walk, because my aunt and uncle also had a quarry. So we would walk, and we would go and have a picnic in the close to the quarry.
Yeah.
We went on. They also had a wildlife farm, where people would come and hunt. So
they have it back then already as well.
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
Since I can remember, they had it. And we would go on drives, and my uncle would check out there's a new baby gemsbok, or there's a new baby buffalo, wildebeest, or, and that was probably some of my greatest times at the farm. And so it was Jan, that was my age, so we were very close. And then he had 3 sisters, so 4 kids, and then my mom's other sister, she lived in the same town as us. And when my mom got sick, she would take me to her work, and she was also a nurse. She would go. I remember going with her to immunize people that were in the
townships.
Townships,
yeah.
Yes.
And townships, if people don't know, is like, I don't know if you would almost like a slum, or I would refer to a township. Township
like
would be a place
village.
People were living. That is, in South Africa they would call a township. In maybe Brazil they call, they call something else. It's basically where people in
poverty,
poor. It's you can just build your own home or out of whatever, making shanties, making shacks.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I would go with her to do these immunizations, and she took me under her wing, and her kids were a bit older than me. So my oldest cousin, she was 12 years older. And she would take me shopping. She would get me haircuts and make sure that I was taken care of in that way. And I grew up with them also, even though they were a bit older. But I guess because they were a bit older, I listened to the music they listened to. I was there seeing them having parties as teenagers, even when I was a little girl. My cousin had a bit of a modeling school, and I was a very cute little girl, so she had me in that as well. So we would do fashion shows and things like that. And then the other sister, she lived further away. So we didn't see her that much. But when we saw her, it was
The Hannah.
Hannah, yes. And Danilo was more my age, and we were very good friends. And then she had two other boys as well, Hendrik and Stefan.
And let's talk about a couple of things first as well. Your first language and what you guys would all would speak, and it was I like to call it the language of the oppressor. It's kind of funny because that was during apartheid. I mean, it was forced on everybody to learn Afrikaans. It's people would. It's close to Dutch. I mean, you can kind of understand Dutch or Flemish, but from Dutch and German settlers, they created their own language, and there's a lot of other history towards that with Afrikaans. But that was your native tongue, and that's what you guys all spoke, right? And you're like,
yes.
I mean, your Oma. When I met your Oma,
she couldn't speak English.
No, and she would speak to me in Afrikaans, and yeah.
A lot of the older people couldn't even speak English.
Yeah, and
yes.
and then you have a funny thing with your name as well, because your name's really not Narda, and I think some people always get shocked at this. Your name's not Narda Hunt at all.
It's a bit of a tricky thing here in Canada, but yes, we in South Africa, I think it's not as common anymore, but we used to have a family name, and so in my family, we are 8 Anna Bernardinas. So my name is actually Anna Bernardina. Anna Bernardina. And I remember hating that name as a child.
Yeah. And that was and the way it would work, so the firstborn daughter gets named Anna Bernardina. So
yes.
You were the firstborn daughter from your parents.
So
Anna
my
Bernardina.
Oma, my aunt.
Your Oma was Anna Bernardina.
My oldest cousins, me, and now my
and our daughter Annabella, was supposed to be Anna Bernardina, but we didn't tell your Oma that it was. She just thought, because everybody gets a nickname, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many Anna Bernardinas.
The reason
that's why
we did that is because in Canada it doesn't really work.
I have a tattoo to my arm. I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but it's Anna Bernardina. And it's a funny thing because it's like everybody knows you here in Canada. A lot of your friends know you as Narda and Narda Hunt. But we never got your name legally changed when we got married because you had your South African passport and all that stuff.
I started that process, but it became such a big deal. Like you have to change your health card and your this and your that.
So
and then
when you go to places, the hospital or other places, it's your passport. It's Anna.
Yeah, and sometimes people make out a check to Narda Hunt, and it's like, oh, sorry, it's not really my name.
Well, yeah. So there's your cousin Bernadette, who goes by Bernadette, but she's an Anna Bernardina.
Yeah.
Anna Lotta is an Anna Bernardina, and that's Annaline, who's Anna Bernardina, but those are all their nicknames.
Yeah. Annalie was my
Mole.
Mole is
your Aunt Mole that passed away last year is Anna
Mole,
Bernardina.
but she's
I don't
Annalie, but she's actually Anna Bernardina.
How'd she get Mole? She had.
My dad actually got named her that because she was always looking for glasses, and it was always on top of her head. And my dad named her Mole because like a mole under the ground.
Are
They're
moles looking for the
blind,
glasses?
and so because
Yeah. So
But yeah, so we all have
there's all a bunch of you with all the same names, so you all get good nicknames.
yeah. But even though my nickname was Narda, which is the name I went by, the family called me Lala. So I was Lala, and then Bernadette was called Osis. That means oldest sister. My cousin that's Henriette, she's called Atta. And yeah, so there's a lot of nicknames
Well, your brothers
and
are
nicknames.
your brothers that are your half brothers, I guess, from
Yeah.
another marriage. I always find it funny that there's all these different names, and your brothers are like, they go, like your brother's Khadet. Took me like 10 years to learn how to say to do able to roll an R. I roll a G, like and Khadet is here in Canada or North America, he'd be Garrett.
Yes.
But then that's not even his name. Like when you look at his things for his passport, when I'm helping him getting stuff, I'm like, wait, Khaddet's not even in your name. It's like,
No.
what's his first name? Is it Khat? No.
Gert Stefanus.
Khat? But it's just Khat. It's like Grit.
2 words. Gert Stefanus.
Stefanus. And then your brother Stefan,
Yep.
name is not Stefan. It's
It's
Nicholas
Stefanus Cornelius
Schumann.
Schumann.
Yeah. So it is funny.
Yes.
So okay, so you're a little girl, you grew up. How old were you, or when your mom first got diagnosed with breast cancer, and how did that happen?
I basically grew up with it because I was only 2 when she got diagnosed.
And how old was your mom when she got diagnosed?
She was 28.
28.
Yeah. And she was actually pregnant when she got diagnosed. So she had to abort the baby because she had to do treatments right away. So that was a very sad thing for the family.
And you didn't know that until
I didn't know that till later.
like
I found photos.
when you were like a teenager, maybe.
And I saw, no, like Olivia's age, like 11 or so.
Okay.
And I saw this little casket.
Yeah.
And I asked my dad, and he told me the story.
So your mom had to. She was pregnant when she first was diagnosed, 28.
Yeah.
And was it already then metastatic breast cancer, or was it just in her breast? And what was?
I'm not sure if it was immediately metastatic. I don't think so.
And for
It just
people
spread
that
after.
that don't know this about cancers or other things, it's like if things are metastatic, it means it's outside of the area where it's a primary cancer. So breast cancer, once breast cancer moves, I guess consider the lymph nodes and stuff on the side of your breasts and stuff like that is not considered metastatic. That's considered stage 2 if it's there. When it starts showing up in other organs, that's when it's considered metastatic. And metastatic meaning it's in your body, it's in your blood, it's other places, it's outside. That is the danger thing of that stuff. That's why they do things, testicular cancer, if it's in your testicles, it is not going to kill you in your testicles, nor is breast cancer in your breasts going to kill you. Tumors can keep growing there. It's not it's when it comes out of there and goes to organs that if they do get taken over by tumors, you do die from. So and or cause a lot of pain. I mean, I'm sure that can cause pain in the breast too, but it's also
terminal cancer.
Yeah. So and you don't know when, because do you know where it spread to from her as well?
It went to her ovaries. That's the only thing I know. But eventually it went everywhere. That's what my dad just said. It went everywhere.
And how long did she live for with it?
5 years.
So when did she die? How was she?
She was 33.
33 when she passed away.
Yeah. And I was 7.
You're 7. Yeah. And what's your memories of your mom with her struggle with cancer and doing things? And
I think it was much different back then. I think my mom and dad really tried to protect me from that, and they didn't really share a lot with me. Whereas you and me are very different with our girls. I tell them everything. So I didn't really know much, and
I think
because
cancer was different then too, though, right? So
yeah,
it's
it was
kind
way
of like
different. It was
frowned upon.
nobody
I think everything's frowned
talked
upon with
about
cancer, but
it.
it's the sense of like, it was kind of taboo. You didn't talk about things,
Yeah.
personal things. You didn't talk about things being certain parts of the body.
No.
It's like, yeah.
And also that's also part of social media, because you can share things so easily. But yeah, so I was very sheltered from the cancer in a way. And also because I had so many families and family and cousins, and I was busy with them. They kept me kind of away. I did go to a few appointments with my mom. I remember her getting, I think it was either chemo or radiation, but I had to sit in the room, and I didn't really know what was going on. But if I wasn't with her, I was with family or friends, so I didn't really know much about the cancer. I just knew she was sick.
And did you notice it changing things with what she could do with you, or how you acted, or how we were able to do things together?
I never noticed that. I never thought to myself, oh, my mom can't do anything, or she can't do this or that. She lived right to the end. I remember my family telling me the last Christmas she still made this menu, and she loved cooking, just like me. But she lived. We went on vacations. Every year we would go to a place called Durban. It's actually a little town close to it called Umhlanga. And we went on vacation there every single year. And I can't really remember anything that she wasn't able to do. I think that it went down south pretty quickly. She passed. She was sick, and I remember she passed away the first day of grade 2 for me. My cousin took me to the store to buy some books and some. In South Africa, we wrapped our books with plastic and to protect it, and
Charlie?
Annalene, yes.
Yeah.
And so me and her were out. We were shopping, and back then we didn't have.
Tell Olivia to be quiet. She's having a sleepover. Her daughter's having a sleepover. And I told them they had to be quiet, and she's not being quiet. So sorry, you're with Annalene?
Yeah, so that the day she died, I remember very clearly. It was the first day of school. I went to school.
Are you going into grade 1? Or
grade
what
2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you call it something else in South Africa?
Sabia.
Okay.
But they don't call it that anymore. And then I went to school that first day. I had an amazing teacher. Her name was Juffrouw Tanya. Anyways, she was a very good teacher, and she really took good care of me. I wish I can find her, But anyways, and then after school, my cousin took me to buy some supplies for school. And because there was no cell phones back then, we went to a phone booth just to call and see how my mom was doing. And when we called, my dad said, "Come right now." And so we went, and literally 5 minutes, and she passed away.
And she was at the hospital?
Yes, so there was my Oma, my Auntie Mull, and my dad that I can remember, and Annelien. And so I was holding her hand, and I just remember her hair was so scarce, like because of the chemo that she probably tried till the end. And I remember taking some of her hair because her hair would just fall out. I took a handful of hair and I put it in a little baggie, and I kept it. That's I remember that day very clearly. And then after that, we had so much support with friends and family, and
you're 7. Like when your mom passed away, when you were 7, did you understand what was happening? Did you?
Yeah, so because she was sick for a while, I kind of knew that it was kind of coming. Yeah, so it wasn't a shock, but it was still very hard. Yeah.
And so what happened after, like with your dad and family?
After that, my Oma, my grandma, my mom's mom, she came and lived with us for a while. Yes, so my Oma. So I didn't finish the story of my dad actually built our house, and it was he did himself. He made a pool himself, and I remember he did underground healing himself with my uncle and blah blah blah. But so I think it was my mom's last, like it was their dream home, and she lived there for a bit, so that's good. But so my Oma she came and lived with us, and then she was driving me around to activities and stuff like that while my dad was working. And then
how old was your dad when your mom passed? He was 33 as well? They were the same age? That's
age.
Young.
Yes. So after a while, he started seeing people.
Seeing some other women, yeah.
Yeah.
Dating
and so
How long, like a few years, a year?
Yeah, I can't even remember, but probably a year, 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad started dating probably when I was about 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that for you?
Or 9. It was okay because I had some good relationship with some of them. And then my dad started dating my stepmom. And so they dated, and then one day he told me I was going to marry her. And I was kind of upset, and I didn't like that. And it was very hard because I had to accept this woman as my mom. And after they got married, all my mom's things disappeared. No photos. She really liked owls, and she had a whole collection. But that all disappeared. I don't know where it went. So it was very hard for me as a little girl to accept this lady as my mom, and I had to call her mom, and I didn't want to, but I had to. And so she was nice, and she taught me things, and
you guys had good relationship sort of later and stuff. Yeah,
we did,
got along and
but it was just hard during my teenage years to answer to her and to follow her rules. And I was raised differently, and so that was a hard time for me. I had to, because they didn't had two boys, my stepbrothers.
Well, you guys moved from Bloemfontein, where you guys lived and all your family was, your mom's
my
sisters,
mom's
all their family.
Yeah.
And you moved to Cape Town area.
Yeah.
And do you think that was, I think about it, it can make sense to me in the sense that, like, it must be very hard for your ex-stepmom to have come into this family that's so tight-knit and be the new wife, and being accepted. To move away, like, to be, like, away from the things. And I think maybe even putting away photos and other things. I mean, I could see that at a young age, right? Like that competing, who do you love? Mm-hmm. Do you love this other lady? Or do you love, I mean, it's very complicated. Mm-hmm. And I think, obviously your dad and
yes, maybe my dad did that because he had to.
They did the best they could do. They didn't really know but so you guys moved away and quite far. I mean, Bloemfontein to Cape Town,
and 12-hour drive.
12-hour drive. So you guys completely uprooted, went there, and you didn't have any other family support there. Mm-hmm. And how was that for you?
I was very upset to move away from my family, but I really liked Cape Town. It's a beautiful area. My dad just said also that he always dreamed of living in Stellenbosch. That was his dream. That was a few hard years. I had to babysit my stepbrothers without getting paid.
How old were you when your brothers were born?
I was 12 when the oldest was born and 14 when the youngest was born. Yeah. So me and my friends always had to babysit and do stuff. And I almost felt like a little bit of a Cinderella. Those were hard years. And
you would go up and live with or stay with other families sometimes, and then you lived with them for a while too, didn't you?
I would go by bus and go visit them for like weekend of holidays and stuff like that. And then when I was like right after high school, I went to go live with my aunt in Bloemfontein. Yeah.
And so your mom's one of 4 sisters. Mm-hmm. She passed away at 33. 2 other of her sisters, of the 4 of them, so 3 out of the 4 have had breast cancer.
Yeah.
So who was the first one to be diagnosed with that, and when was that?
So it was my mom, and then it was my auntie Mirai, and then it was my auntie Mol.
And how long ago was that? When was Mirai first diagnosed with breast cancer?
A long time ago.
You were young still.
No,
were you a teenager?
I think I was done with high school.
Okay.
And then at the end of high school or something like that.
And then she had treatment and done stuff, and she's still around now.
And she's still fine.
Yeah.
It never came back for her. And my auntie Mol, she also had cancer, 2 different cancers, like 10 years apart or something like that. And she just passed away last year from something to do with her heart. So she didn't pass away from cancer. So when I was growing up, when I was hitting my 20s, and nurses and doctors will always be, oh, you have to be careful. You have such a strong family history.
Talk a bit closer to the mic.
And I would also always think in my head, like, how am I going to be careful? How are you careful to get cancer? You can't be careful. You get it or you don't get it. Anyway, so I grew up with that, like people always saying, oh, you have to be careful. And then it was kind of just in the beginning of people testing for gene mutations that they suggested me after I got diagnosed to go for the gene.
I mean, it's jumping kind of ahead or a bunch ahead, but yeah, when I knew this of you, obviously, when we were first dating and that your mom passed away and that your family history of breast cancer, and when we got married and we were talking to doctors and talking to things, birth control and stuff, and they would be very serious about the when they would hear that your mom passed away at 33 from breast cancer, and that she was one of 4 sisters and 3 of them have had breast cancer. They would always, I remember being in the room with you, and they'd be shocked almost, and saying what you're saying, being careful. But I mean, it's be careful what? But actually, no one mentioned to us about the BRCA or BRCA2 gene mutation. I mean, that was out then already, because this would have been 2011.
Yeah.
No, sorry. When we were talking to them before, when we were first married, 2005. So 2006, 2007, talking about that stuff, 2005, 2006. The gene, they had discovered that already. Maybe it wasn't as much knowledge on it yet, but that was known, and it was pretty shocking to me later to think that no one ever brought that up to us. Maybe you should get tested for a gene.
Yeah.
For the breast cancer gene. And to give it a little bit of context for people listening, if they don't know what that is or they've heard about it, I mean, it's got a lot of popularity, a lot of press in the years over with, like Angelina Jolie had the gene, and she had
double
mastectomy done things before. So basically, and if there's medical people listening, I might butcher this a bit, but people get kind of cancer cells or rogue cells in our body, things that can start to form cancers, to start, that don't die, that multiply and stuff like that. But our body typically recognizes cells like that and attacks them. And from what my understanding is, that the breast cancer gene with the gene mutation is that you do not have that gene sequence that recognizes those cancers developing in the breast area.
I don't have that. So the helix, the DNA helix. One side of mine was gone.
Closer to the mic a bit.
So the DNA helix is like the one side of mine wasn't there.
Yes.
I don't have that one side.
And
so that is the mutation.
The mutation is you don't have it. And so
it doesn't protect me from those cancer cells.
Yeah. And that's why that if you do have the gene mutation, which meaning you don't have that gene, then I think you're at like, there's been different numbers, but it's like, is it 80
85,
or 85% chance of getting breast cancer at some point in your life?
Yeah.
That's pretty damn high.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people are getting tests for that, or know that with family histories, and doing things like double mastectomies, like your cousin did. Where we can talk about doing overectomies, having kids earlier. We have 2 daughters. There's a 50% chance that they carry that gene mutation. So something that we will chat about later on when they're older. Yeah. Hopefully and I'm sure with the way medicine is advancing, there'll be different things for that.
Yeah.
But it's that's what the gene, the BRCA2 and BRCA1. I don't know the differences between those 2 mutations.
Yeah. So the BRCA1, that's the one Angelina Jolie had. It's a bit worse because you're prone to more cancers. and it's a little bit more aggressive.
You're prone to more like ovarians and some other things, cervical.
Colon and stuff like that. Also, I had a cousin have a cousin that she.
Well, a lot of your family got tested. We'll go into that in a bit of a later, I think, in another podcast. But yeah, your family, after you were diagnosed again, and knew about that. Then you actually got DNA testing for yourself for the mutation, which you have, which obviously your mom would have had.
Yeah.
And likely her sisters have, and your cousins got.
And her grandma.
Because who else passed away?
Cousins.
Besides.
It's a lot of extended family. Like it came from I believe my mom's grandma.
Your Oma.
And some of her sisters, and then some of their kids. So my mom's generation, and then even down from that is like extended removed cousins of mine. So it is very strong in our family, the mutation. And so my one cousin did a double mastectomy and a ovarectomy.
It's interesting. I remember when you were first tested for this, or before even that, when they were wondering about it, they would always ask you if you're Jewish, and if you have, or you come from Jewish families, stuff like that. Because I believe this is the mutation is very strong in some of the Jewish communities.
Yeah.
I mean, where you got your wig the first time was from a Jewish area of Toronto.
Yeah.
And it was specialized in that. I think it was very, the gene is prominent.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're a teenager, you finish high school, what's next? What do you do after high school?
I had a hard time figuring out what I want to do. Throughout high school, I thought I would want to be a chef. I loved cooking, and I still do. But when I went to chef school.
You went to chef school in Stellenbosch?
In Stellenbosch. It was a very prestigious college. It was hard to get in, but I got in, and I did have an unfortunate event that happened with me in that time, and I couldn't stay at the college.
Do you want to go into what that event was? I know what that is. Our daughters know what it is. I don't think your father does. I don't think anybody else does.
I don't think I told him. But
how old are you? You were 18 when this was?
Yeah.
And you want to talk about those? You were dating a boy.
I wasn't really dating him. I liked. We were hanging out at the college, and we went out one night, and he raped me in his car. And I just couldn't stay at the college, and so I.
And you never told anybody? You never...
No, back then you don't. It's a shame. It's like a shame. You know, it's
a good thing I don't know if it's a good thing you didn't tell your father. I mean, your dad might have been in jail, you know?
Yeah.
That would kill him.
And so that made me quit the college. Then I went actually I started working just at a restaurant for a bit. And then I went to a Christian outreach program for 6 months. And after that, we went on an outreach.
YWAM.
YWAM, yes.
This is Youth with a Mission.
It's actually in Worcester, where my dad is living now.
Yeah.
And so you stayed there on a base for like 6 months, and you would do a training and how to pray for people, and how to do Bible studies, and just how to reach out to people.
And you guys went to
Lesotho,
and you're working with kids there.
yeah.
And for people that don't know as well, for Lesotho, which is kind of really funny, I don't know how many places in the world are like this. So South Africa is a country, and it's, a big country. And in South Africa is another spot, you would think like maybe as a province or something like that, but it's another country.
Mm-hmm.
But it's completely surrounded by South Africa. South Africa hits like, the oceans and the different, to Zimbabwe and other places in Africa and Namibia. But in this smack in the kind of like, not the middle, but like up north to the
there's actually
the
two.
east a
It's
bit.
Swaziland.
Oh, Swaziland's another country too.
Yes,
Yeah.
in South Africa.
But Swaziland borders Namibia.
Yeah.
It's not landlocked by South Africa, is it? I always thought Swaziland it's like South Africa, Swaziland, Namibia, Mozambique.
Mozambique.
Sorry,
yes.
it borders South Africa and Mozambique,
Yeah.
so that kind of makes more sense. Like that's not really landlocked. Like,
yeah.
But Lesotho is a
surrounded
little
by-
country that's
Almost surrounded by.
and actually, and if people know, the AIDS crisis in sub-Saharan Africa, Lesotho, this country is one of the, I don't know if it still is, but it was one of the worst countries in Africa for poverty and just horrific AIDS. And you were volunteering at an orphanage then.
Yes.
And I am sure most of those kids were orphans from AIDS.
From their parents having AIDS and died.
Yeah.
Yes. So we went on the base for 6 months, and then after that, when you're done with that, then you go on a team. I can't remember who decided who's on the team, but my team went to Lesotho, and it's a gorgeous country, but
big mountains.
very poor, and like you said, a lot of people with AIDS. And so I worked in the orphanage there for a bit. We actually built some stuff, like physical labor. Mm-hmm. And then in the evenings, we would put on shows for little kids to reach out to them about God. So that's what I did for a while. And then...
And how was that experience? Was it...
Oh, they were life-changing. Yeah. I still have some friends on Facebook from that mission trip. Mm-hmm. There was a guy from Sweden. There was a guy from like Taiwan that came. And we would travel around as well. We did the orphanage, and then we traveled around for a bit. Mm. Yeah. After that, I worked for a bit again. Then I went to nursing school. And that was also very hard to get into. It's a degree program. So my dad was talking to the professors, and I got in, and I only did that for the first year. One of the reasons I stopped with that was you have to do your practicum in the government hospitals.
Yeah, because it's kind of a bursary, right? You're getting a cheaper rate for school, but you need to do so many years or work back for government hospitals, because for people in South Africa, even at that time, you had government hospitals, mm-hmm. and you had
still the same thing.
Yeah, and you have private hospitals.
Yeah.
Obviously, the private hospitals are for people that have money, that have health care. Mm-hmm. And the public hospitals
was free for anybody, but it was not the best.
Well, people understand. South Africa is probably the best African country.
Yeah.
but it's still, I don't know what the employment rate would have been back then in the 90s. But I mean, now what are we looking at? Like, and it's been like that for a long time, 30% unemployment rate.
Yes.
I mean, it's and corruption and other things in the government. So when people not paying taxes and just, I mean, how do you collect taxes from people that don't have an address when they live in, a shanty and stuff like that. So, obviously the government hospitals have a lot of challenges.
Yes.
And you had a lot of faces.
I experienced those challenges firsthand. We actually lived across from the hospital, one of the hospitals that I worked in, and I remember that hospital had no soap in the ward I worked in. We had to get a key from the nurse to go wash our hands in our private bathroom.
So hygiene, like washing, and people that don't. I mean, TB, tuberculosis, is a big deal in Africa. Something we don't deal with in North America. I mean, vaccines and other things that have. It's still a huge deal in Africa, really, and also more so with AIDS, because AIDS lowers your immune system.
So
you don't die of
TB.
AIDS itself or HIV. You die of an infection, but because your body is so immune compromised because of AIDS, and TB is a huge thing. So it'd be a lot of people with TB, and TB can be very infectious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just couldn't stand the disrespect I was receiving as a young, beautiful nurse. Men would take advantage of you by asking to wash them certain areas, and then that part, and also the part of the hygiene that I hated that, and so I didn't carry on with the nursing in South Africa. I then went to esthetician school.
You have one in your hometown, or not hometown, but where you grew up in high school.
It was
Stella Bosch.
in my hometown.
It's a
It
very
was actually
prestigious.
friends of my parents.
Isa Carson.
Isa Carson's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did the nail course there. I did it with the intention to go work on a cruise ship.
Because they had a contract with a bunch of the cruise companies. Yeah, they very.
So when I was in between and I didn't know what to do, then my parents' friends that had this school suggested that I go work on a cruise ship.
That's a good idea.
So I went to do that course, and then I went on to London, England for like a month or so for training and stuff like that with Steiner.
Steiner was, I don't think they have the monopoly the same as they did, because when we went on the cruise again,
it changed
6 years ago
it's
or so.
A different company now.
But maybe they still do, I'm sure. But they had the stronghold. Like they had every cruise line.
Yes.
Every ship.
Every spa.
Every spa on every ship was run by Steiner. Like I'm pretty positive. Like all their ships.
Yeah.
I'd probably say 90% of the ships in early 2000s to mid 2000s was run by the spas were managed and ran by Steiner out of London, England.
Yes.
They hired tons of people, and you had to go if you're Canadian, if you're Swiss, if you're South African, if you're English. You went to London to do training before you went on the ship.
Yeah.
Specific training for them, and then they assigned you to your ship. So you flew to London, England.
Yes. And I was lucky to get a really nice ship back then. Now it's not so fancy anymore.
It's a nice ship still. It's just small.
It's just not as glamorous as the newer ones. Yeah. But that was amazing adventure for me. I love traveling.
A lot of South Africans do that as well for a lot of things. I mean, people don't think of this stuff, and I never thought of this stuff really until I understood it. As Canadians, as Americans, as even Europeans, people don't think about travel. Australians, anybody from a Commonwealth kind of country too. It's like, we can just kind of fly anywhere. I mean, there's very few places we need a visa before. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what the concept of a visa was when people would talk about like a visa. Like, what do you mean you need a visa? Like, our dog's acting a little funny. Why do you need a visa? Like a visa, like a credit card? I didn't understand what a visa was. Like a stamp that you get when you get into a country.
And for South Africans, I think we had to have one for every country.
Yeah, you do. You still do because of issues in South Africa. In apartheid time, well, not the whole apartheid time, because there was a time during apartheid when there was all these things on South Africa for people going over there, sports going over there, musicians, stuff like that, because of a boycott on what was going on with apartheid.
Yes.
And because South Africa was a British colony, but they lost and still have lost that. They don't have the Commonwealth kind of thing. Like when I was young, if I wanted to go work in Australia or in England and stuff like that, it was very easy to get a visa to do that, and vice versa for other Commonwealth countries. That's why you go to Whistler in Canada. I mean, there's more Aussies there than there is Canadians.
I mean,
but
South Africa was part of the.
They lost that because of apartheid, and which I can get. So there was things that need to be done to try to stop what was happening in apartheid, and that was one of the things that was taken away from South Africa, and it's never been reinstated. And I think problems with being reinstated now too, because of the poverty and issues in South Africa.
Violence and
they would just be flooded in other places with stuff, so it's to control things. But so on the ship, there's a lot of South Africans that work on the ship because, especially in the spa, because of the school.
Because it's an easy way for you to travel.
You have a different kind of visa. You have a different work visa. It's an I-95, which they give you out of the U.S. for travel on a ship and stuff like that. So you don't need to apply for visas every place. You have a work thing that you can go around and travel places. So.
Yes.
And you went onto the ship in 2003. What month?
I can't remember.
Before your birthday? After your birthday?
I got on the ship in hurricane season. I think it was around October, something like that. So for me, that was a very big adventure. I loved being in London. I would go places myself because I really didn't have any friends. I just went by myself. So I traveled. I did stuff when I was off, and I explored. And then I got onto my ship, and it was hard work. 12 hours a day, and our weeks were 10 days long. So
because it was per cruise, right? So you were on a 10-day rotation or 11-day rotation.
Yeah,
for
so
two different cruises
in 10 days,
in the Caribbean.
you only had 1.5 day off. So it's a very long week, very long days. But I was young, and I don't know how I did it, but I did it. I would, work all day, and then because you're in such close quarters with your friends and your co-workers, you are very close. You're very...
Well, you become a bond very quickly.
Yes.
I mean, you're not your friends in the beginning. They're just your co-workers, but then it become very close friends.
Then, we work all day, and then we would have dinner, and then we would go out all night. And we will go to bed at 3 and then do it all over again. Yeah. And every day, I mean, the days I didn't work was fantastic. Get off in a different place every day. So I saw a lot of places. We did the Caribbean, and we went through the Panama Canal, and then up the west coast of the States, and then Alaska. And so that's where I met you.
Well, not Alaska, but we met on the ship. It's still in Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yep. So I went on the ship.
On my birthday, you got on the ship.
Yeah, April 5th, 2004.
Yeah.
This is kind of a weird story. Not a weird story, but and people don't believe me when I tell them sometimes. But and this is when I think like of fate or things that were supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was living in Whistler, in British Columbia, Canada. I'd finished film and television at college, and I was trying to get work and stuff. And it was tough. I actually moved up to Whistler with a job lined up that didn't go through. So I was kind of just living as a snowboard bum, really, for a bit. And then I got this call, and I applied for tons of different things online, but I got this call or email that said, they wanted to have an interview with me as a video person for Cruise Line. And I thought it was kind of strange. I was like, when? I was like, I don't remember applying for any of this. I have pretty good memory. I would remember applying for a job for a cruise ship. Like, it seems like a bigger thing, but they said I applied and I had this thing. So they were coming to Toronto to do recruitment, and they wanted to do an interview with me because my address then was still my parents' house that was closer to Toronto. So I flew back from Vancouver, Canada, to Toronto, and I did this interview. I had to show a demo reel and some of my work and stuff, and I was already producing content or videos and stuff, VHS videos, bike videos, BMX videos. Not really making money, shooting weddings. So, and then they called me back, I think, within a couple days and said I was approved. So this would have been like maybe late March 2004. And then they said, you've been approved and you're gonna be hired. We're gonna see where you're needed on a ship, and then we'll call you and let you know. And this can take months. So I was like, oh, I got months. I don't know how I was going to work. So I went back to help working with my good friend and owner of a bike shop that I worked at a ton through high school and college and things. And then it was like days later, I get a message saying, because it was a recruitment company actually too. So that was the funny thing. It was a recruitment company that had my email and info before. And I'm like, I never applied for this, but they said, you've been approved, or there's a ship. You need to go on it, and you need to leave in 2 days from now to start your contract. And I was like, what? And it was like a 6-month contract, and I'd never been on a cruise ship before, and I was kind of freaking out. I was like, whoa, I'm like, I don't know, like.
And you almost didn't go.
Well,
right?
I didn't. I was almost going to be like, can I wait to the next ship? Like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this right now. Yeah. And my mom researched the ship that I got at the Celebrity Summit. And it was that time it was a newer ship, and it was a bigger ship for the thing. And it was really nice. Yeah. And the itinerary it was doing was really good. Yes. Because sometimes some people might get on a cruise ship. They might get put on a cruise ship that's doing New York to Bermuda, like a 3-day cruise and back and forth. And you do that all summer. And that's kind of very boring. And this was 11-day Eastern Caribbean and a 10-day Western Caribbean cruise. And then it was going to reposition up to Alaska. And so my mom basically forced me. She's like, Brian, you have to do this. Like, you have to do this. Go. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of problems growing up and younger, teenage age, all my life really, with anxiety. And I was really had a lot of anxiety about this. I'm like, going on a ship and I don't know anybody and all these things. So yeah, I accepted the job, and the day I landed on the ship was your birthday. And I mean, we didn't meet then, but we didn't meet long after. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if I remember seeing you on your birthday. We have a photo of you of the crew bar. Well, crew bars, and it's funny, like there's a crew bar and a staff bar. And the crew bar is like the ceiling's like you could stand up and touch the ceiling. And there's like metal roof. There's no windows.
You're a hole.
Well, you're underwater. Like, I mean, the staff bar at least had some portholes because you were at water level. Yeah. But the crew bar, you're underwater. Yeah. On that ship, but alcohol was dirt cheap for crew members. Mm-hmm. 60 cents for a can of Bud. Yeah. Mixed drinks in little cups that were super cheap.
Cocktail was like $1.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we're both on the ship together. And my cabin was across from your cabin.
Yes.
So I can remember, yes, meeting you. Kind of the first time I thought I met you was in the hallway.
Yeah.
Because there'd be fountains in the
The
hallway.
water fountain.
And you were filling one up there. And I don't know if I was waiting to fill one up or something there. I was talk to you.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being smart too, because I remember you telling me that you sent a package to your family in South Africa. And it just arrived there. And you had sent
months.
it like 3 months before. And I was like, what?
Yeah. I remember seeing you before that because I remember I was so impressed with how polite you were to other people around you and how friendly you were. Because a lot of people wouldn't say hi to anybody that comes in the gym. Because I remember I was in the gym and you were working out, you were on the bike. And you just said hi to everybody, and you smiled, and you were very friendly to everybody that came in, and that made an impression on me. I like that. And then, and then we met in the hallway. Yeah.
And then, so I don't know what led up to this, but I know where we were and what it was when you asked me out. I don't know if you asked me out. You asked me to go to the disco. The disco was like the dance that...
I didn't really ask you out on a date. I just asked you out to come out with me and my friends.
Yeah. And I said no.
Yes.
Because to go more into that story, I was in Aruba that day. The whole ship was in Aruba that day, and it got off. And during the video on the ship was actually a very good, at that time, position on the ship, because you do sign a contract for working 7 days a week, every day. There's no days off, and up to 10 hours a day. And a lot of people do that. Like a lot of people, like cleaning rooms, like all these things. People working, waiters, like they work like crazy.
Yeah, they don't even get one day off.
We already had all these stock footage and all this stuff of where we were at. We just needed to capture the activities in the evening, because when we were at port,
after recent cruise,
when we get to port, we're a place, majority of people leave the ship, right? Major majority of people leave the ship, like everybody, 90% or more leave the ship and do...
Except for those people that cruise a lot.
Yeah. But then so in the evenings, I would have to work. So I'd work every night, but it wouldn't be that much. And it became very cookie cutter in the sense that you knew each cruise was the same activities back to back, right? So I knew that what things I needed to get, what shots I could get. So it was very simple. We could edit it pretty quickly. You basically duplicated your timeline editing from the cruise before and just changed the shots, and you knew what shots you could get. And if you didn't get the right shot, you could use a shot, like if you missed a certain thing, like a limbo shot, you could use one from a few cruises before, because no one would know, because there's 2,000 passengers, right? Like that person was on the ship. Like, how do you know? Like no one called that out. So my job was pretty simple.
Yeah, you didn't work very much.
No, we did lie on our timesheets.
Yeah.
To make it say like we worked more hours than we were, because we were getting paid a salary thing. So you asked me out on a date.
Not a date. Just come out with us.
Yeah. And so, long story, because I could get off at every port, pretty much, that you couldn't you get time off. I would get off every day that we were in port, whatever country or whatever island we're on, and I'd go out and just do whatever and, explore, take photos and shoot some video and have fun and just
drink beer.
When you drink beer, I used to like just going around to different like local places and get like taxi drivers to take me to like a local bar or like cool place, and I did get told by some police a couple places to not be there because it wasn't safe. I think that was more in Costa Rica. I got told to turn around when I was out taking photos somewhere, and they're like, you shouldn't be here as a white North American deep in the...
Standing out a little bit.
Yeah, holding cameras with a backpack on full of other camera stuff. So we were in Aruba that day, and I went to a beach somewhere. I was supposed to meet some friends. I couldn't find the beach they were at, so I went to some other spot. I think I had a few beers. I fell asleep or laid on the beach, and it was windy. Like Aruba can get really windy.
And you got burned.
Yeah. So you don't feel the
and
sun.
you never really burned.
No.
But
was
you
bad.
were burned that day.
Yeah, I was burnt. So I got back to the ship and I was like, like when it's like an hour, like a couple hours after you were laying in the sun and you're already feeling burnt,
yeah,
you know it's going to be bad. So I was like, you came to me like, oh, do you want to go to the disco with us? And I was just like, no. For some reason, I don't think I needed to work that night. Maybe I had already done something. So I had to play the Sail Away song. We had to do that as well. So yeah, I said no. And then I remember I went and laid down in my bed and I was like, nursing put an aloe gel on or something like that on my chest. And I was like, man, I'm kind of stupid. I don't know how long I stayed there for, but I got changed and I went upstairs and I met you at the disco.
No, you first met us at where we had drinks.
Yeah, but that's at the disco. It's like beside the disco, right? It's like the chairs and stuff there, like the cocktail bar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the martini bar.
Yes.
Beside, but it's the dance floor is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had, and then I went and found you there, and we.
And then we went to disco, and we.
Oh, did we dance together that night?
We were first
you
at the bar. We just sit and have drinks, and then we went to disco, and then we were talking all night. You were telling me about.
Did we dance that night?
Yes, lots of dancing.
That's why you fell in love with me, as my dance move.
We were just talking about our lives, and remember you telling me about your BMX and your video work, and and we kind of clicked, and
I told you I like bikes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't remember then what was the second time we were hanging out.
Well, we hung out more that night.
Yeah. And then was it Cozumel where?
Yeah, I think we hung out we were like, I think already like a couple.
Yeah.
Second night we were second time we went up. Basically, we were very, very quick moving. And yeah, I think maybe that week, maybe 3 or 4 days after, was our first like date on land.
Yeah.
And you had half the day off, and we were in Cozumel, and I loved Cozumel. Cozumel was one of my favorite places to stop, and I love Mexico. Mexico is one of my favorite places, and Cozumel's a fun place. So, and so we got off, and my friend Mike Boyd, that I used to work with in the office, he was in the
he had some
like an IT guy.
brunch with us.
Yeah, he came with us. He took us to one of his favorite places. There was like a Waffle House.
Yeah.
in Cozumel, and I have some video from that as well, which is funny. And that was like our first date on land.
And we walked around.
I went to the stores there.
And stuff.
Some of the funny tourist things there.
Yeah.
I think you had to go back on the ship, and then I think I went to another bar. I went to the No Name bar, which is like the crew bar.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's still there. It'd be fun to go to.
Yeah.
But the No Name bar was like the crew bar, or like where a lot of crew members would go in Cozumel.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if it's still there.
I'd like to go to Cozumel. Cozumel's a cool place. Cool little island off
It must be, because there's still tons of cruise ships.
Well,
not right at the moment.
Not with COVID, but
yeah.
So yeah, that was our first date on land, and then I think we just kind of fell in love quickly.
Yes.
I remember writing a letter.
We knew right away.
I remember writing a letter to my parents back when people used to write letters. I was quarantined in my cabin for 3 days because I got a stomach bug. I had like food poisoning, but they're so scared of people having like Norwalk virus.
You were very sick.
If you're a crew member and you get that, they just put you in your cabin with nobody else for 3 days to make sure you aren't spreading it around. And I'm I was fine after like 12 hours and some IV with some magic in it. But the IV was amazing. They gave me, I don't know what was in it, like gravel and other things. But after, shitting and puking all night, I had no clue that there could be that much liquid in your body and where it could keep coming from.
Came out everywhere.
Puking and just, I remember the good thing is like on a cruise ship in the crew cabins is that your bathroom, your toilet is pretty much in
2 steps away.
What's in the shower pretty much. You have a curtain right there, but it's like, so I was puking and on the toilet puking into the shower.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing in the sense of it's easier for cleanup. But yeah, but it was a lot of fun times. We did a lot of good things. And then I mean, you're so close with somebody too, right? I mean, our cabins are right there. I had crazy diarrhea vomiting with the thing the first, I don't know, month we were dating. Yeah. So it's like you can't hide things from somebody. You can't be fake.
No.
You can't be like...
And you're eating dinner together. You're eating breakfast together. Yeah.
No, you're with each other. It's like not like you're going on a date and like just, it's like we were with each other all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
So you get to know each other.
Besides working, and then
faster.
Every time that we would get off the ship somewhere, we were together and doing things. And then, we did the Panama Canal. We did stuff in the other side of the U.S. and to Mexico on that side and Huatulco.
Yeah, and a lot of.
Did you get off in Huatulco? I don't think you did.
Maybe just for lunch or something.
But that's somewhere we've loved to go as a family since, and I discovered that on the cruise ship. It was just this little beautiful place in Mexico that like was so underdeveloped and so different than like Cancun and Cozumel and other places and Acapulco. Like it was like, this place is amazing. And we've gone back there after we had kids and we've been there like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
I love that area.
It's a favorite spot.
I discovered that when working on the cruise ship. Then we went up, made our way up to Alaska and did Alaska runs. I had my birthday on the ship while in Alaska. I don't know where we were in Ketchikan or something like that. Mm. And then I got off the ship. And before I got off the ship, so we had been dating for 3 months. You asked me if I was buying you a ring on the ship. You showed me the ring that you want me to buy you in the stores because they had all the stores in the cruise ship.
Yeah.
And I don't remember being shocked by that. Like, I said I was going to buy this ring right now, but I wasn't like scared or anything by it because I knew, I think already I wanted to marry you. Yeah.
You told me that you want to marry me after a week.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I spoke pretty early on with your parents on the phone. It was in Aruba.
Yeah, it was Aruba. I was probably pretty intoxicated. Mm-hmm. No, I went back to work. I had to shoot that night. I remember shooting that night and be like, "Well, this is all right. Kind of working like this." Because I filmed. It was like island night, but Aruba we left late, like really late.
Yeah.
Like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. So I didn't have to start filming until like 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Maybe it was 9 o'clock. But we went to Carlos and Charlie's.
Yes.
And
I went out afterwards with my other friends.
Yeah, and we I had to go back to the ship. But yeah, we called my parents from the parking lot at the Carlos and Charlie's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wrote them in a letter. I wrote them when I was sick. That's what I was trying to go through with that story, that I was likely going to marry this person.
Yeah. And I said the same to my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it was probably end of June, beginning of July that you got off the ship. Your contract was done. Mm-hmm. I still had my contract going, but I decided to get off the ship at the same time. Yes.
We got off in Vancouver.
Vancouver, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was awful to say goodbye.
No, it was very...
And then, you kind of think, is this going to last? But I knew I was going to last because I knew that you were the one.
Well, I knew we were apart for 3 months. And after we left, and I knew in my head that if I could get to South Africa, that we would be together. Mm-hmm. And so I made that I flew to South Africa, I think September 2004. Mm-hmm. And it's one of my best days of my life as well, meeting you at the airport.
Yeah.
After 3 months and you picking me up there in Cape Town.
Yeah.
was amazing. We have that photo. I was like, you know, I was like, I knew like
I know.
as if I could get there, all I had to do was get there. I didn't really have, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do for work. I had some
No
things there.
plans.
I told people I was moving to South Africa to be with you, and people thought I was crazy and you shouldn't be doing this stuff. And like, why would you move to South Africa? Everybody's leaving South Africa to come to Canada.
Yes.
I remember a guy, South African guy, that had a carpet cleaning business, and he was cleaning my parents' house
Yeah.
before I left, and I recognized his accent, and I said I was moving to South Africa, and he like his jaw like dropped in the drawer. He's like, no, why would you move to South Africa? You know, I was like, I tried so hard to leave South Africa.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm moving for the girl.
Yeah.
She lives in South Africa. I'm going there.
Yeah.
And I knew I just had to get there, and that was it. And I knew that, and I didn't know. We'll go more into this. We'll wrap this stuff up now, but we'll go into that a bit more on the next podcast. Maybe pick it up on the South Africa part. But I didn't know that I was very scared flying there. We'll talk more about that too, about because when I got warned about the violence and everything, and we can tell some funny stories about that. But I didn't just fall in love with you. I fell in love with you already, but I fell in love with South Africa immediately, and the people.
Yeah.
So well, that wraps up episode 1. It's been a long one.